Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We are live, no longer at the Mining Book Fair, but live on Life Improvement Radio with Eric Tremble and Peter Elvich. And, you know, it's an unbelievable opportunity to promote JFK Lancer. And I have the moderator on the program right now, Alan Dale, and also John Newman. Alan and John, thanks for calling, guys. Thanks for taking the time on your busy schedules. You just finished up the event.
Happy to speak with you.
Awesome. All right, and so let's go right to Alan and talk about what you did as the moderator for JFK Lancer. We were able to learn a lot from Jefferson regarding JFK Lancer, but you can, as the moderator for the conference, you kind of explain what happened that entire weekend.
I think the way I would want to frame it is that there are very serious and very disciplined and very knowledgeable scholars who are not always the focal point of the mainstream media. Seems that occasionally you might get the impression that only people who are interested in Bigfoot or UFOs or aluminum foil hats are engaged in discussion relevant to President Kennedy's assassination. So the purpose of the Lancer Conference and the type of work that is being showcased there would stand in stark contrast to the kind of depictions which are not serious and which are pejorative.
Okay. All right. And and you have lots of interesting participants, Alan. I was reading up on things of some people that did experience and were part of the assassination. Part of it, meaning they observed what happened, right, Alan? That were there.
There are witnesses. There's a particular woman who's well known to all of us, named Mary Mormon Kramer, who took a very famous Polaroid photograph during the attack on President Kennedy. It's a very famous black and white photograph, which ultimately ended up with a thumbprint on it that was not there when she submitted it at the request of some intelligence officers who wanted to have the photograph examined and analyzed for a couple of days. But the main thing I would say is that the privilege that I enjoy as the moderator of a conference such as this is I have a front row seat to listen to people like Dr. John Newman, who's a career Army intelligence analyst and spent 2 years as the military assistant to the director of the National Security Agency, and he's devoting his life to trying to decipher what can be known during this period in our history. He thinks that this stuff is knowable. I have the privilege of being in the room when Jeff Morley speaks about James Angleton. I have the privilege of, introducing to people who might not otherwise be aware that over a period of 54 years, quite a lot has happened and quite a lot of progress is being earned.
Wow, Alan. Most definitely. And Dr. John Newman, why did you're spending so much of your life trying to make sure that this that we really know the truth of the JFK assassination?
It's a complicated story, and trying to go too fast without being careful is where we get in trouble. And so I took everything off the table and went back and started all over again with what will be a 5-volume series on the case. I began working in 2012 and plan on finishing up around 2022. I'm halfway through that now. I'm in the middle of volume 3. And I came to JFK Lancer this year to present some of the new Oswald material from volume 2, Countdown the Darkness, and also to give a sneak peek at some of the materials from volume 3 on the same thing, and on some character whose name is Antonio Veciana, that is a sort of a history figure into the JFK community.
Okay, very interesting. All right, let's go. Eric, question for either Alan or John, and make sure you phrase who the question's for.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, it's just more of a statement. I was just, after having our interview a moment ago with Jefferson and hearing different perspectives and things like that, it's just really interesting to hear you guys, wanting to bring this topic to the light of day. I mean, it's been so many years since it occurred. There's been so many different variations of the story because a lot of the items are kept in the dark, so to speak. So there's been suspicion. But it's interesting to hear that you guys, want to make this come to the forefront of people's minds. You really want to publish it and get it out there. Have you experienced any kind of positive or negative feedback, based on what you guys are trying to accomplish?
My response, Eric, is that people are interested in learning about this story and are frustrated by, among other things, the fact that the government of the United States seems to be opposed to people learning about this story. And that's not something that began, recently. The period of 25 years represented by the passage of the 1992 President John F. Kennedy Records Collection Act and the October 26th deadline, which just came and went, with lots and lots of material still withheld in full or redacted in part, all of which, an argument could be made that this represents a breach of the protocol that is defined in Appendix C of the 1992 JFK Act. In other words, in violation of the law, materials are still being withheld after the deadline that Congress voted unanimously to establish 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Peter, question for Alan or Dr. John?
Well, I'll ask John this. So my question is when we get to that point where we have all the files released, what do you think might happen, just kind of as a hypothetical, looking right now, although we don't know which way this is, how do you think the world's going to react, or how do you think you guys are going to take action once you have all the files that you need?
Well, part one of the question is a hypothetical because we don't really know what President Trump is actually going to do. He's told us that the agencies, which did a bad thing actually by not having their appeals ready, while he was on a trip, began asking him to sign off on postponements of records. And he wasn't happy about that. But at the end of the day, he decided to postpone what was going to be an enormous release of records, tens of thousands of documents, and has said you have until the 12th of March, 2018, to make your requests for appeals, and I will adjudicate them no later than 26 April 2018. That would be a 6-month addition to what the law had required us to do. It's hard at this point to give you an assessment of just how fruitful it will be. There are some really good things we've seen, but the problem, frankly, is that no one expects to get a memo saying, let's kill Kennedy on this day at this place. What is happening is we're getting single pages, in some cases more than single pages, that are very powerful when they are set next to many of the pieces that we already know. But those pieces come in the form of 5 million pages that have been released. And so it's going to take some time for serious and careful scholars to actually go through and find where these new pieces fit in. And that's going to be a job that's not going to happen in a week or two. It's going to take a year or two. But I expect we'll find some good things.
I'm excited to find out for sure. And you guys, basically, I think that the mission, Alan, of you and everyone that's out there is to uncover the entire truth. You're not saying the conspiracy there was 5 gunmen, Alan, or you're not going and giving us this whole thing. You say the records need to be released. And that's what the listeners need to know and our viewers need to know, because this also goes on YouTube and we put it all over the place, that you want the records to be released. It's not, okay, I have this certain conspiracy thing. I want to know the truth. That's pretty much it, Alan, right?
I agree with your assessment, but I would like to sort of nuance it just a little bit. An important point should be made in the first paragraph. And the first paragraph should read, in 1992, a whole bunch of materials which no one in the public had ever had access to started to become available. And at that early point in relation to President Kennedy's assassination, unbelievably serious and disciplined journalists and military intelligence historians started going through these materials. And the short version is that by November 3rd of 1994, we knew, without speculating, that 6 weeks prior to the assassination of President Kennedy, one of the most densely, compartmentally insulated, most densely protected parts of the interior of the agency had a keen interest in Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, addressing why they had a keen operational interest is something that would take much longer to go into, and is again something where we would prefer not to, not to indulge in speculation. We're interested in defining as precisely and as accurately as possible what can be known by evaluating the documentary record in the context of what do the internal systems and the management of those systems and the executives responsible for the management of those systems, what does all of that reveal about pre-assassination interest and awareness in the Oswald figure? Because a senior CIA liaison desk officer named Jane Roman, 31 years after the fact, admitted to, very simply conceded, that what she was signing off on 31 years earlier, in particular response to a routine inquiry from the CIA Mexico City station, she was saying to them something that she knew was false pertaining to the Oswald figure. And 31 years later, she admitted it, but defensively, by saying, I wasn't involved in any hanky-panky. And when pressed, the right person asked her with courtesy, what's your take on this? Does this indicate to you an operational interest in Oswald 6 weeks prior to the assassination? And without hesitation, to her credit, she said, yes, to me it indicates a keen interest held very closely on a need-to-know basis. We today are building upon where we were at that moment.
It's a great story, a great puzzle that needs to be uncovered. And I see what you're saying is, as Alan was talking about, Dr. John, the same thing is that there is so much, there are gaps to the story. You know certain things, you want the answers, and that's the major part of this, is that you know for a fact that what came out is not the truth, and you want the truth to set free what happened in 1963, right, Dr. John?
Yes, sir. It was a bad thing that the president was assassinated all those years ago. And it could be a very bad thing for elements of our government if they were involved in that, and we find out or we don't. But the one thing I would emphasize is it matters more that our government today is not withholding anything anymore. We need that. We need to get over that. And we'll do our best to figure out what it means, but as long as the government today is withholding things, it's never going to be over. It's going to undermine our faith and confidence in our institutions.
Okay. Well, fantastic, guys. I really appreciate it. Any questions, Eric? Anything else to add with Alan or John? The questions?
No, it's great and mesmerizing, and I love hearing all that you guys have to say, and congratulate you on all your success and hard work so far, and look forward to reading more as time goes on.
Absolutely, Alan. So the best place we can find information on JFK Lancer, where can we go? And
JFK Lancer. Well, I got 3 websites for you: jfklancer.com, aarclibrary.org. That's for the Assassination Archives and Research Center, of which I have the privilege of being an executive director, aarclibrary.org. And with regard to Dr. Newman's groundbreaking work, the 25 years of overturning orthodoxy and introducing new facts, JFK JMN for John Michael Newman, JFKJMN.com.
All right. Well, thanks for calling, guys. And it's a great way to kick off the final day is, the JFK Lancer and also a great day in Miami. So good talking to you guys, and thanks again for calling.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. All right, thanks. Bye-bye. You're listening to Neil Haley Show, powered by Life Improvement Radio, as one of our live interviews. And we'll be back to close things up right after this break.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.